I don't know why you clicked on this video. It could be because you're doing a reading challenge, or it could be because you're looking for something quick, a palate cleanse. It could be that we're at the end of the year now and you're just a few books shy of your Goodreads goal. I don't know. What I do know is you are looking for some short books, and I am here with my favorites. Hello, my lovely friend. Welcome back to the channel. I am here with 16 books that I think can be read in a day. These are short books. I kept the list to books that were around 300 pages or less, plus a couple of novellas, because I found that that's what I can read comfortably in a day. If you're looking for something chunkier because you're a faster reader, let me know. I can make a part 2 where I talk about 500 plus page novels that I think you can read in a day. For me, at least, I kind of have to give up my entire day to do that. And if you're watching this video, I'm gonna guess that you don't have the time for that. You're a busy person, you've got things to do, and you need something quick, short, and snappy to read. The first book that I have for you is Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drew. It weighs in at 336 pages, and it is a YA horror novel set in a boarding school. We are following Andrew Perrault as he starts a new school year at his boarding school. He is a writer. He writes these really dark, macabre stories, and he's dealing with the fact that his best friend is acting a little off. And not just that, his sister is also kind of shunning him. She won't talk to him. She's disappearing at weird times. It's an all-in-all weird situation that only gets weirder when Andrew decides one night to follow Thomas out into the woods, where he finds Thomas fighting this nightmarish apparition that looks very much like one of the creatures that Andrew has dreamt up in his stories and that Thomas used to illustrate with drawings. This is a beautiful, atmospheric, slow burn kind of monster horror novel. It was one of the best written books that I read last year. The next book I have for you is Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga. This weighs in at 332 pages, and it is a middle grade contemporary that is written in verse, so you're gonna get through it really, really quickly, and I highly suggest, if you have the chance, to listen to the audiobook. In this one, we are following Judah, who is a young girl that lives in Syria. However, she and her mother do relocate to Cincinnati because of the violence that is going on over there. She does end up leaving behind her father and her older brother, who she loves very much. When she gets to the US, she finds that it is really not anything at all like what she has seen portrayed in the movies that she and her best friend used to watch. She basically just gets thrown into the deep end at her cousin's middle school, wrestling with her identity. She's wrestling with the people that she left behind. And on top of that, she has also set her sights on the middle school production of Beauty and the Beast. Now, if you've been on this channel for a while, you know that I do not shed tears over books. It's not a thing that happens. I'm far too aware of the fact that people are fictional, but this one got me so close. I remember exactly where I was when I finished it, because I was sitting in my car right out there. You can't see it, I'm not going to show you, but I was sitting in my car right out there with groceries in the back, just sitting there and listening to the last 40 minutes of this audiobook, because it is so riveting, it is so emotional. I absolutely love it. The next one I'm going to suggest is for the theater kids, specifically the Shakespeare nerds, and it is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This might be the longest book on this list. It comes in at 354 pages, but it is 354 pages that will have you by the neck. It is an adult mystery set at a prestigious acting school. We are following Oliver Marks. He's just gotten out of prison where he did 10 years for murder. He is sitting down with the detective that put him behind bars. Detective Colburn knows that he did not get the full story 10 years ago, and before he retires, he just wants to sit down and find out what actually happened. This is another one that the audiobook is so good. As a theater kid myself, as someone who went to school for theater, the way that this novel is structured like a 5-act play was just so wonderful. It was a really nice little touch to this very weird, messy theater vibe that we've got going on. The next book that I have for you is Witchlings by Claribel A. Ortega. This is a middle grade fantasy that weighs in at 334 pages. In this book, we are following Seven Salazar. She lives in the town of Ravenskill, where everyone is a witch. She is about to undergo the Black Moon ceremony. It is a ceremony where all of the young witchlings are sorted into covens, and they're able to start their studies so that they can become full-fledged witches. Seven goes into this ceremony absolutely certain that she is going to be sorted into the same coven as her best friend, but unfortunately, she is designated as a spare. Even worse, when she and the other spares try to close their coven, they are not able to, which means that they are forever going to be in limbo as witchlings unless Seven is able to complete an impossible task. If she and her coven are able to complete the task, they will be able to leave their witchling status behind them and continue on in their studies. If they do not complete the task, they will be turned into toads. This is a fun, whimsical novel about friendship and perseverance, and it is perfect for those of you that are looking for a novel that is set at a magical school. And I'll leave it at that. Dipping our toes back to mystery/horror, let's talk about Dead Lake by Darcy Coates. This weighs in at 158 pages and is an adult thriller/horror. I feel like it really walked the line in between them. It's surprisingly slow burn for something that is as short as it is, but it will have you on the edge of your seat. In this, we are following Sam. She is an artist who is dealing with artist block. It's a really inconvenient time for her to be dealing with a block because she has a gallery exhibition coming up and she needs to be able to get together enough paintings to display. She books a stay at a remote cabin. She thinks it's going to be perfect. There will be no one to disturb her. There will be no phone, none of that. And it's all great until she realizes that she is being stalked. There is a strange man looming at the end of the dock near the lake. She finds weird things happening to her car and she starts to suspect that he might be the one responsible for a bunch of disappearances that have happened on the hiking trail nearby. If you're looking for something that you can really dig your teeth in but is also still short, I would like to recommend Emily Wilde's Encyclopaedia of Fairies. This is an adult historical fantasy that comes in at 317 pages. We are following Dr. Emily Wilde. She is a professor and she is working on the aforementioned encyclopedia. She has been compiling research, traveling to all kinds of remote places, trying to create this Encyclopedia of Fairies. It is going to be the first of its kind, the first truly comprehensive book. She has one last place that she needs to visit and study before she can complete this dossier. Now the problem is that she is not great with people, so she goes to this remote village and manages to ruffle quite a few feathers. And on top of that, after a couple of days, her academic rival shows up, also claiming that he has research that he needs to be doing in this same place. They end up striking up a slightly fraught alliance because Wendell is really good with people and she's really good at the research part, and so they decide that they're going to work together despite the fact that she really does not particularly care for him all that much. I will be the first to admit that this text is a bit dense, but because it is written as a series of diary entries, it's actually very, very readable and it will take over your life. Just a warning there. Another warning, a lot of people put this out as cozy fantasy, and I'm just gonna say there's a tiny bit of maiming in this book, and I don't know that kind of fits with the cozy fantasy vibe. It gets dark towards the end. Another quick, very vibey novella that I would love to recommend is A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. It weighs in at 151 pages and it is a YA science fiction that is set in a futuristic post-apocalyptic landscape. Now in this world, centuries ago, humans were very dependent upon robots. The robots kind of gained some sort of consciousness, got up, and left. And they are only really regarded as myths and legends. We're dealing with a society that is very careful about its technology. They're very careful of making sure that the technology that they develop is not a sentient being that is part of the issue that happened there. Now in this, we're following a tea monk. He became a tea monk because he felt slightly dissatisfied with the life that he was living at the time, and he decides that he needs to go out into the wilderness where people do not go, and see what's out there. While he is out there having his little crisis, he ends up running into a robot who decides that they are going to help him on his journey and help him get where he wants to go. As I mentioned before, this is a vibes novella. It is very character driven. Primarily, it is about the kind of back and forth that happens between our monk and our robot in this novel as they are kind of learning about each other's cultures and figuring out how things work. There's a lot of questions, especially on the tea monk side, of how much can I ask this robot to do because he is a sentient being, how much is too much to ask of him. It's really, really interesting how it looks at those issues in the form of this little trek through the wilderness. Now there are a few books that if I'm recommending you short books, the video would not be complete if I did not recommend these books. One of those books is The Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. This weighs in at 258 pages. It is an adult science fiction, and it was written as a response to and also kind of during the time of COVID. If you are going, Margaret, what the heck is a kaiju? Think Godzilla. There's more of them than just Godzilla, but that kind of giant mythical creature who happen to be really bad at surviving and taking care of themselves. I kid you not, these giant creatures that would look at you and think that you were a bug are compared to pandas when it comes to their ability to survive on their own in the wild. We're following Jamie Gray, and he has just been fired from his food delivery job. He was working for like an Uber-esque company that got bought out, and then they started firing people. Like, it was a whole thing that happened, and he gets offered a job at this remote location watching over these kaiju. He signs up for this, not realizing that it's going to involve him going to an alternate dimension where these kaiju live. I found this fun and delightful. It's very tongue-in-cheek, very, I don't know, a little bit irreverent. Wait, if you've read this book, you know exactly the moment that I just thought of, because there are some moments where you go, I never thought I would ever read that sentence in my life, and I don't know that I ever want to read that sentence again. If you read this, I highly suggest reading the author's note at the end where John Scalzi talks about why he ended up writing this book instead of the book he was already contracted to write. It's a really interesting kind of snapshot of where we were as a society in 2020 and 2021. Also, I do want to stress that if you heard me say this happens during COVID, just know that it's like the first couple of chapters, and then we are almost entirely in this alternate universe where they're watching these kaiju. So like, we know it's happening and it happened, but then it has no bearing on most of the events of this novel. It's worth pushing through, in my opinion. Next, we have a short little novella which is responsible for me falling in love with this author's work in general. It's just been banger after banger after banger, but I haven't liked any of them nearly as much as I liked Nettle Bone by T. Kingfisher. This weighs in at 240 pages. It is an adult fantasy, and it's kind of like it is not a fairy tale retelling. It is basically its own fairy tale. Like, T. Kingfisher created a fairy tale out of all of like the best parts of a fairy tale. We're following Mara in this book, and she is the third born princess, which means that rather than getting married off, she was actually sent away to a convent. Now, the kingdom that her parents rule is very small and very dependent on having good relationships with its much larger neighbors. It would be very easy for those neighbors to come in and decide that they want this place because it kind of sits at a little bit of a hub. Because of this, her eldest sister ends up married to the prince of a nation that they have a treaty with. When her eldest sister mysteriously dies without having produced an heir, her second eldest sister is then married to this prince, and Mara finds out that the prince not only was potentially responsible for her eldest sister's death, but is also abusive. This is told kind of in two different timelines. We have present Mara, who is trying to complete 3 impossible tasks that she has been assigned by a hedge witch because she's trying to get her sister out of this marriage. And then we also have the past timeline where Mara is slowly discovering that the prince that her sisters were married to is abusive and also possibly responsible for her eldest sister's death. Next up, we have Warcross by Marie Lu. This is a YA science fiction that comes in at 353 pages. We are in a near future situation here where there is a virtual game called Warcross that's kind of taken the globe by storm. Think like a virtual game that is similar to like think Digimon. If you've been around long enough to know what Digimon is, that's kind of what we're dealing with, only with mechs. Players in this game have different builds that allow them to compete in tournaments and things like that. We're following Emiko in this. She is a bounty hunter that hunts down people that do illegal stuff like illegal betting in Warcross. In an attempt to get some extra cash, she accidentally glitches herself into the biggest tournament, gets caught, kind of becomes this worldwide sensation. She's expecting to be arrested, to be hauled away. Like, they take this kind of thing very seriously, but the game's creator, Hideo Tanaka, is like, hey, actually, I could use your skills because there are some security issues with the game that have been brought to my attention, and I think having you in the game might help with that. Again, highly recommend the audiobook. It drew me in so quickly. I pushed play on that thing and then I did not press stop. I also would like to recommend The Luminaries by Susan Dennard. This is a 292-page YA fantasy that basically is like if Gilmore Girls and Supernatural had a baby. You got all of like the small town drama and politics and like the mom that's kind of on her own that you have in Gilmore Girls, along with the fact that we are in a society where their entire world revolves around going after these monsters in the Nightmare Forest. Our main character, Winnie Wednesday, is trying to get her family out of what is basically exile. Her father 4 years ago was branded as a traitor to the Luminaries, and they've been kind of living on the fringes ever since. There is an end date to their exile, however, it is a little bit too late for Winnie if Winnie wants to become a monster hunter, which is the only thing that she has wanted to do her entire life. So she's going to sneak into the Luminary trials because there's technically no rules against her going into the trials as an exile, and she thinks that if she can get into the trials, she can get back in good standing with the rest of Luminary society and get her family out of exile and get them in a better position. However, as she's going through these trials, something happens in the forest. Something weird, something that is not, it doesn't seem like any of the other monsters that she knows about, and no one is listening to her when she tries to say, hey, this thing happened. Another great YA fantasy that I would love to recommend is Raybearer by Jordan Ifueko. The page count on this one is 343 pages, and again, you don't really notice them. It grabs you and you just keep reading. In this novel, we are following Tarisai, and she is dealing with some conflicting loyalties. Her mother was very mysterious and often absent. Tarisai has spent most of her life craving and longing for family. She is sent to the Empire's capital, where she is supposed to complete in a set of trials and earn the trust of the Crown Prince. The emperors of this empire are protected by a council of 11. She is in competition to be one of the Prince's 11, which will then rise to the level of council when he eventually takes the throne. While she is there, getting to know the prince, getting to know the others that she is doing trials with, she starts to find that family that she was longing for. However, her mother sent her to be a part of that trial because her mother wants to bring about the downfall of the empire. She wants Tarisai to gain the prince's trust so that she will be able to kill him. The way that this protection works, basically the only people that would be able to kill him would be one of the 11. Tarisai ends up torn between what her mother is asking her and the plans that her mother has and what she wants for herself. Another book that you knew it had to be on this list is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is adult science fiction, and it comes in at 149 pages. This is quick, this is fun. Our main character is the definition of a cinnamon roll that could kill you. This is the first book in the Murderbot Diaries, and to be honest, you could probably just do a reading marathon of like the first 4 books in an entire weekend because they go by that quickly and they draw you in that much. In this, we are following Murderbot. It is a self-aware security unit. Because of a thing that happened, Murderbot has hacked their own governor module, and so they don't actually have to listen to the company that owns them, but they're not trying to rock the boat. They don't want to just leave. They have no, they just want to do their job and be left alone and have autonomy over their decisions because of, again, set events that you will get into. And now they get assigned to a team of scientists, which should be a pretty easy job because scientists, typically, they just need you to go out, make sure that none of the big carnivores bother them while they gather samples, and then stuff starts happening that is not supposed to be happening, and suddenly Murderbot's like, well, now I have to do my job. Crap. They discover that there's a whole bunch of information that this scientific team was not given, and so now they have to work together with these scientists to try and get these scientists off of the planet and back to safety. For those of you that like the grumpy character that doesn't want to care about people, but then ends up finding people that care about it, and it starts to care about them, and suddenly it feels like maybe there's a family that it has. If you want that vibe, if you want that kind of character, this is the series for you. It's so funny watching them wrestle with and be mad about the fact that they care about people. It's adorable. Next, I would love to recommend Tread of Angels by Rebecca Roanhorse. This comes in at 201 pages, and it is an adult fantasy noir. Now, there are a lot of elements to this book. We're dealing with a world where Abaddon rebelled against heaven and was thrown down to earth, and now they're mining the remains of Abaddon's body. Because of this conflict, society has been divided into the fallen and the elect. The fallen have demonic blood, the elect have celestial blood. Our main character, Celeste, and her sister Muriel are fallen. Muriel woke up with her lover beside her, his throat slashed, completely bled out, and the murder is being pinned on her because she was there when he was discovered. Celeste is absolutely certain that her sister could not have done this, so she's teaming up with an ex-lover of her own to try and find the information that she needs to clear her sister's name. My second to last recommendation is How High We Go into the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. This is a 293-page adult science fiction, and it is told in a series of vignettes. We start in the Arctic Circle with Dr. Cliff Miyashiro. He has gone up there to complete the work of his daughter, who died while on the job. While he is up there completing this research, trying to find closure, they discover that her research has uncovered a plague, and unfortunately, the plague breaks containment. From there, we follow the reaction of humanity to this plague and the way that society has to restructure itself around what this plague has wrought through a series of connected short stories. This book gets really dark in places, but it is also like a testament to the perseverance of humanity, and I feel personally ends in a hopeful place. And the final book that I am going to recommend, you will want to have tissues for, but it is so worth it. It's The Cost of Knowing by Brittany Morris. This is a 336-page YA contemporary fantasy. Our main character, Alex, is dealing with the fact that he can see the future. Every time he touches an object or a person, he can see something that is going to happen in the future. He is trying his best to have a normal life in spite of that. However, when he touches a family photo, it shows him the death of his younger brother, Isaiah. Up to this point, Alex has never been able to change any of the visions that he sees, but he is fresh off of the death of his parents last year, and he decides that he is going to do everything in his power to change the events that will lead to his brother's death. Brittany Morris does a fantastic job of getting you in Alex's head and communicating the level of anxiety and hypervigilance and the toll that that takes on him. Brittany Morris does a fantastic job of getting you into Alex's head and communicating the level of anxiety and hypervigilance, and the toll that that takes on Alex is also a metaphor for some of the other themes in this book. The one thing I do want people to know going into this, that it does have some pretty strong trigger warnings when it comes to death of a family member and also police brutality, because that is something that is explored through this book. And there you have it. There's 16 of my favorite short books that I think you could read in a day. If you've made it this far into the video and you're feeling chatty, I would love to know what books you think could be read in a day. If you're not feeling chatty, go ahead and leave me the calendar emoji. If you're looking for ideas as to what to do with these books, I did challenge myself to read 7 books in 7 days, and you can see right up here if I managed to complete that. Right down here, YouTube will have something that was picked out especially just for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye! I don't know what. Wait for it.